everyone. Welcome to the debut episode of Horns Up, a new weekly heavy metal podcast from the creators of The Bracket. I am your host, Dan Kaplan. With me, as always, is my good friend, Corey Butterworth. Corey, how's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going slightly worse than it was 5 minutes ago.
Issues
going well.
with Google Hangouts and or GarageBand aside, how's it going tonight?
It's going well. It's going well. I got my wine. Goat's head. I think I have everything I need.
Yeah.
I don't know. Shit. What about your end? How's life over in Brooklyn these days?
Oh, it's loads of fun. I was telling you earlier today, for the listeners out there, I was at a hip hop show last night during which a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old kids tried to start a mosh pit. I'm just like, normally I would like that, but wrong genre, dudes.
There are so many things wrong. There are so many things wrong with that last 2 minutes of statements that I just won't even get into it.
Yeah. Well, who the hell organizes a 16+ show? That's what I want to know. It's like, go to a metal show. Actually, no, don't. I don't ever want to see you again, you assholes. So, my life is just full of assholes these days. If it's not kids at a rap show, it's Apple updating GarageBand to something incomprehensible. It's Google Hangouts just randomly dropping our call. Fun times down in Brooklyn town.
It could be worse. You could be an ICP fan.
I could just be in ICP. That'd be bad too.
One of those two. Who would you replace? Who would you actually replace out of those two?
Is this an I must make a decision?
No.
Right, well, then I'm gonna table that discussion.
Put a pin in it.
Folks,
Shaggy 2 Dope. Violent J.
Folks, for those out there who may have listened to our previous podcast, The Bracket, Horns Up is going to be a more general look at the heavy metal scene. We're going to cover a whole bunch of new content areas, whether it's news from around the world of metal, whether it's concert reviews, album reviews. We're going to start doing subgenres of the week, which should be quite a bit of fun. It's just going to be a more all-encompassing look at metal, covering beyond just the world of dipshits, as we saw in The Bracket. That doesn't mean that the Bracket, that format, won't be coming back at some point, but yeah, we're going to just take it a little broader and see where it goes. Corey, I mean, I guess, I don't know, unless you had anything to add to that, you don't want to hop right into our headlines for the week?
Yeah, why not? I don't know. People can get ready for us to spill our opinions upon them in mass doses once a week. But yeah, let's roll into headlines. We got some good ones.
Yes, that indeed we do. Our first headline coming to you from the As I Lay Dying camp, specifically the Tim Lambesis camp. What a situation this has turned into.
I'm enjoying it. I am thoroughly enjoying it because I don't care about any of them.
Tim Lambesis, as you probably are all aware, is on trial for hiring a hitman to kill his wife. This happened last year. The band has sort of been dormant since then. On Monday, there was a statement released from the band regarding their future, Tim Lambesis' future, what's going on. It seemed to refer to Tim. I mean, it seemed to be a general statement. It referred to Tim in the third person. Very much cast them as two separate entities at this point. And then just today, thanks to our friends at Metal Sucks, we found out Tim Lambesis issued that statement on his own, referring to himself in the third person.
There are just so many. I'm going to start off by saying two things. First of all, if he actually did hire Hitman to kill his girlfriend, that is really ironic because of what his music is generally about. Number two, Christianity and whatever he finds awesome in love. Anyway, second thing I want to point out is only if this had come to surface a couple weeks ago, so we would have included him in the dipshit bracket because he would have easily reached the final four.
Yeah.
There is so much material here. He is doing everything wrong.
Yeah, he's he's gone down he's gone down the wrong path. Let's just say. The statement he issued on his own behalf, acting as the band. Um, quote from the
But
statement: "A good starting point is to clarify some things that have often been falsely reported. Tim was not a Christian at the time of his arrest, nor was As I Lay Dying a Christian band in 2013. It hadn't been for some time, and to the best of my knowledge, only one of the people playing in the band even claimed to be a Christian at that time. The changed view had been written about in a handful of As I Lay Dying songs, and Tim's later atheistic view had even been documented in court records. However, it doesn't make as sensational of a headline to refer to the arrest of the ex-Christian metal subgenre independent artist as it does the Grammy-nominated top 10 selling Christian rock star of the past."
Jesus, the ex-Christian metal subgenre independent artist. That is a mouthful.
But
Um,
he's referring to himself in the third person.
but
He's
who?
trying to like overinflate his ego. Like, what's going on? I mean, the band has came out earlier today completely refuting the statement. They basically have been keeping any updates to their personal social media profiles. Tim Lambesis is the only person who even has control of the As I Lay
Yep,
Dying website.
correct.
So the band, their management, their label, um, everyone is out basically saying this is a bunch of shit. Um, Tim, Tim.
Yeah, it just took an utmost turn for the weird. I don't even know how else to describe it.
And it's
Oh
the
man.
timing of it is funny too because another news item from the world of Tim Lambesis. For those of you who may not know, he also in addition to singing for As I Lay Dying, he had a side project called Austrian Death Machine.
Hmm.
Um, they put out an album called Total Brutal. I think they have another one called Double Brutal,
Get
and
to the chopper.
yeah. And they crowdfunded their most recent third album, Triple Brutal. Guys, I wonder how brutal they are.
Oh god, not very, unfortunately.
So the band crowdfunded their third album, which is going to be released despite Tim being in jail. And as part of the crowdfunding, they apparently made some sort of claim saying, a portion of the proceeds were going to go to this World Vision charity, Christian humanitarian organization focused on working with children and different communities around the world. Sounds like kind of a cool
Right.
deal in theory. Your thoughts on religion aside. Um, but here's the thing: World Vision
Kicker.
Charity, World Vision Charity has not been contacted once by Austrian Death Machine.
This
Nobody.
isn't one of those. This isn't one of those asshole moves that makes them more brutal to help with their album title. It's one of those things that just makes them assholes that nobody appreciates.
Yeah.
Um,
The spokesperson for
oh,
World Vision had this to say. Quote, "Unfortunately, in this case, neither Mr. Lambesis or the band approached World Vision before stating that proceeds of the record would benefit us. Regrettably, we found over the years that individuals and businesses will make that claim and not follow through. Our legal
so
department is currently looking at the band's website to determine next steps."
that sucks. I mean, that's just a dick move. It just adds to the pile of shit that we have on this guy. I don't know. I have a feeling that I don't know. Maybe just being overly optimistic, but somehow those funds will get to where they need to go. But I think it's going to be a pain in the ass to get it there. I don't know. It's just super classy, guys. Just go Tim.
Yeah,
Just go Tim.
yeah. Again, I mean, I'm far from what you'd call a religious person, but you can't give someone the shaft like that. That's just shitty. Anyway, moving on to things we hate less than Tim Lambesis. It's actually a couple of different headlines, but from the same category. We've had a couple of bands that have a couple of bands that we love that we have both seen that have announced upcoming album titles. Mass
And not only that, but we've seen them at the same show.
Exactly, exactly.
So
We're talking, of course, about Mastodon and Opeth, former tour mates on the Heritage Hunter tour back in 2012. Mastodon announced last week their upcoming sixth album is going to be called Once More Round the Sun. Opeth is going to be releasing Pale Communion, their 11th studio album. Um,
crazy.
I mean, there's not much more to say here. They haven't released any artwork. Um, I don't even think actually Opeth has an official track list, but very limited beyond that. But again, it's two bands we're interested in, so news, yay!
Right. And Mastodon will be on tour in not too long. So
Going to see
I'll
them.
be checked. Yep, I will be as well because you're in Cavalry Tech. Now, Mastodon, I'm curious as to what direction they go in because I I do like Mastodon a lot, and their last album, The Hunter, I didn't really give it too many once throughs when it came out. It wasn't until I actually saw them live on this tour that I realized how entertaining the album actually was and how much fun of a listen it was. Curl the Burl is a perfect example of
Yep.
that. I honestly did not care for that song. I thought it was, I wouldn't say it's boring, but I thought it was just, it wasn't interesting. I'll just put it that way. The performance was great. It was awesome. And I keep going back to that album and that song specifically now for it. So I'm curious to see what direction they go in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're a band that has just. I mean, the difference between um, the Remission album and Through the Hunter is just it's just completely different band. Not saying that's a good or
I
bad
like it.
thing, but they've I would say that they've evolved their sound the right way. It's just been baby steps over 5 albums. I'm interested in seeing what they do with it.
Yep.
I think so long as they just keep on that gradual evolution, I think it's going to be a pretty rewarding, pretty repeatable listen.
Agreed.
Opeth, on the other hand, I think Opeth needs a big one. Opeth needs to
They
deliver here. I was personally not a big fan of Heritage.
Well, here's the thing about Opeth and Mike Lagerfeld, and maybe not so many of his words. He basically said he's done everything he can with death metal. So I'm I'm probably more cautiously optimistic about this than I am about the Megadeth situation.
Oh,
I'm honestly more cautiously optimistic about this because I'm thinking, knowing Ackerfeld, he might go in a completely different direction, for the sake of being progressive, and I hope to God, that rings true because that band is just so classic and they're so good and they put out so many good albums and the Heritage just disappointed me so much. Um, I'm just hoping that they take a different direction because that's what Ackerfeld does. We'll see though.
Michael Ackerfeld is on record as saying, quote, Heritage was somewhat deliberately fucked up all over the place because I love fucked up all over the place type music. But I wanted to do
Yep.
something more melodic with this album, so there's stronger vocal melodies and more melodies overall for this album. I was pretty consistent with that frame of mind throughout the writing process, so at least I had a plan, and I normally don't, to be honest.
I don't know. I don't know if him having a plan's a good thing or not though. I'll call it good, but
Yeah.
I've never heard him say anything like that. We'll just have to see. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I do love
Yeah.
me some melodies, so
Yeah.
maybe it'll be for the best. At any rate, that is coming out in June, June 17th. It's going to be on Roadrunner Records, and as soon as we hear more about Mastodon's Once More Around the Sun, we'll make sure to keep you up to date on that. Our final headline
It's a big one
for this week. It's
an
a
interesting one.
timely story. What with this
Right.
band being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's talk about Kiss.
Yeah.
Specifically,
Let's talk about Kiss.
specifically a tell-all from lead singer, rhythm guitarist Paul Stanley, who has accused former Kiss members, or co-founding members, Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, of being anti-Semites. That's always good. Number one, let's not invite them to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Oh, let's also call them anti-Semites. let's just kick them while they're down. Why not?
Do we know what prompted that? Just sheer angst? I mean, what the actual hell?
I don't know. I mean, the article I'm pulling from has Paul just ripping on everyone. He's ripping on Gene for being like kind of fat and wearing overalls when they first started the band. Basically, being just a marketing whore and everything like that, taking credit for all of the band's business success, which, let's face it, is probably true. Um, but
Well, at least he's consistent in his assholery.
yeah.
My God.
But as the article says, quote, as harsh as Stanley is with Simmons, he saves his real venom for former Kiss bandmates Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. After it was announced in December that Kiss will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a public war erupted over which band members would play at the upcoming ceremony. Frehley, Criss, and the Hall wanted a reunion of the original lineup in full makeup. Simmons and Stanley refused. Stanley's book sheds greater light on why he wouldn't want a full-on reunion, recalling countless past times that Frehley and Criss, who have both had substance abuse issues, were belligerent and even unable to play. Oh my God, you're a rock and roll band. How terrible. How completely unprecedented that there would be substance abuse issues. Never mind the fact that the guys are all in their 60s now and have probably mellowed out. Paul Stanley, he apparently likes to hold a grudge.
Yeah, just a little bit. There's so many reasons right now for this band to actually be, I don't know, celebratory about everything, and it's just these fucking assholes just have to be assholes about it. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I think it's at this point just a waste of everybody's effort to even go down this road.
Yeah. I can understand if like, you know, because every band that's inducted does a performance at the ceremony, and I can understand if Kiss wants to perform with their current lineup, but
Right.
to not even include Frehley and Criss, who were so like integral to early Kiss and to, you know, what making Kiss into what it is today.
Right.
It's a slap in the face, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they're all on the same team, and they all brought Kiss to where they were, and I just don't really see a point in this kind of situation, that kind of an attitude. I mean, almost in a completely different level, it's like at a certain point, grudges just need to be dropped. I mean, the whole Phil Anselmo, Dimebag Darrell thing, that grudge pretty much kept Phil at his funeral. There's just no place for it in certain situations. This, I think, falls in that category. It's just dumb. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Extremely mature, but you know, Kiss. What are you gonna do?
I would have to agree. Interesting read, unrelated to these allegations. Interesting read on Grantland today. I don't know if you saw it. Chuck Klosterman, author of like Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Pops, a number of like pop culture essays, did a complete history article on Kiss.
I saw that. Did not read it. Saw it. But
it's
fill me in.
Epic read. He goes down and he does album by album grades, just like rankings of the different members of Kiss, you know, explaining like why they were in, you know, when they were in the band, why they were in the band, stuff like that. Of course, this is the guy who has widely acknowledged Kiss as his favorite band. Even in one of his books, compared his ex-girlfriends to members of Kiss at one point. I mean, it's an enthusiast article by an enthusiast. It's just wonderful. I'm not even that big a Kiss fan, but I just couldn't stop reading this thing. So if our little Kiss preview wasn't enough, go to Grantland, check out the article. It's called Kiss-story, like as in history. Nice little play on words, Chuck. But yeah, check it out. It's a surprisingly entertaining read. At any rate, that'll wrap it up for the headline section. We're gonna get into our concert reviews now.
Let's talk some shows.
Yeah, I mean, Corey, I know you've been all over the place recently. Which of the many on your agenda would you like to chat about?
Well, I'll talk about one in full. What I want to focus on right now is Children of Bodom played Boston a couple Thursdays ago, which I had the pleasure of seeing. Tyr and Death Angel opened for them. Starting from the beginning to the end here, Tyr, you know, I honestly was confused about their choice in this lineup. They were decent. You know, they played like 4 songs, just catchy Viking metal. I personally don't care. No, not to be a jerk or anything, but they're entertaining and they're full of cheese. But that's pretty much the extent of it. Death Angel really impressed me. I wasn't too familiar with the band going into the show, but they were killer. They sounded really good. They got the crowd moving, very energetic. they sounded good. Bodom was awesome, and I have never said that before in my life, ever, ever. There's something always pisses me off about Children Bodom live. Um,
I see.
either
I
it's
can't really
Alexi.
speak to that. I've the only Bodom shows I've ever been to I think two, and both occasions I left before Bodom even took the stage.
Yeah, that's about how it should be done. I mean, frankly, but no, I stayed for it this time. I mean, the Celis I thought was the Celis for me was amazing. Um, Only because of how wide ranging it was. They covered everything from Something Wild up until the newest album, obviously Halo of Blood, bits and pieces and everything. Lake Bodom they killed. I mean, they played Bodom After Midnight. They played Every Time I Die, which kind of surprised me. They played Hate Me, Bodom Beach Terror, and they only really played two or three songs off of Hill of Blood. They played Scream for Silence, Hill of Blood, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was Dead Man's Hand on You. I was hoping they'd play Transference because that is a great song.
Ugh. I don't know
But
how.
alas,
I don't know how they can do a tour for Halo of Blood and not play Transference. Like,
it was a single. I don't really get it, but
error
they
in
the on
judgment, Bodom.
yeah, that's the one thing I fucked up. But the encore was In Your Face, which it's a little superficial of me to say it. I never gave any songs of that album a chance because I listened to that album once through and just thought it was absolute dog shit. And by this I am of course referring to Are You Dead Yet? There we go.
Yeah.
Knew I was gonna think of it eventually.
The one we
But it
don't
was
speak
actually
of.
right, exactly. But it was a good time live. It was good. It was a good encore. It was disturbingly catchy as most Bodom songs are. Um, so I gave the concert honestly a 7 out of 10, and it would have been higher if Tyr didn't play. Um, Laya was extremely engaging with both the band and the crowd, which I appreciated. Um, I don't know. He seemed like less of a dick than I remember him, which I guess is a good thing. Um, I mean, I knocked a point down because I was kind of confused by the lineup of this show. I mean, Tyr made no sense. I mean, Tyr belonged with the Enslaved and the Monomar show I saw earlier in the year, but alas, it was Bodom. Regardless, good show. I enjoyed it. Whatever.
There you
No
go.
complaints. And
I
then obviously I'll let you cover the next one, but obviously the next one I was going to talk about was the ocean. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I would have liked to go see that show, but it unfortunately came through New York the same night as the Ocean, um, and
Plenty to talk about there.
after, yeah, it's timing fail. But after Pelagio last year, there was no way I wasn't going to see the Ocean.
Yep.
I mean, they played with Silver Snakes, Atlas Moth, Scale the Summit, and it was just a hell of a show. They
Yep.
played in the studio at Webster Hall, which is like the basement of Webster here in the city. Which no matter how many times I swear I hate this venue, it's tiny. It's just jammed constantly. I mean, you can't even don't even think about trying to get a drink at the bar. No matter how many times I try and slag it off, I always have a good time at shows there, and this is no exception. I had an absolute blast at this show. Um,
Yep.
I got there a bit late. I didn't see Silver Snakes. I think that's the second time I've missed one of their sets as well, funny enough. Um, but caught a little bit of the Atlas Moth, who I had seen open for Gojira and Devin Townsend before. Wasn't nuts on them then, but they really
They were
impressed me
good though,
this.
right?
Yeah, they impressed me this time out. I don't know if they have any new material coming out, but they definitely played the hell out of that set. Scale the Summit was one I wasn't quite familiar with them. I knew they were kind of proggy. Um, our friends Mike and Pearson, who are of the Dream
Hmm.
Theater persuasion, both like Scale the Summit, which kind of made me think going in, oh shit, there's no way in hell I'm gonna like these guys. But they were actually a lot of fun. They're for those who don't know, they are a progressive metal band, but they're entirely instrumental, and they actually call themselves adventure metal. The style they play, you can hear shades of like Eric Johnson. You can hear a lot of clean tones. There's like Cynic Slater stuff. Also, clearly played a big influence. It's just very exhilarating. Very, I don't want to say natural sounding in the way of like, um, in the way
Wolves
that
maybe.
in the way of like Agalloch or Wolves in the Throne Room, but it's natural sounding in like it's a natural adrenaline rush. It's the same kind of adrenaline rush you would get from, you know, whitewater rafting or for scaling a summit. So it's quite apt. But great set from them. I was really impressed. And then the ocean. Wow. What a set that was. Played the entire Pelagial album all the way through, and then at the end we got Origin of Species and Origin of God.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Son of a bitch.
Yes. It was wonderful. I mean, the band was just in lockstep. It was a perfect representation of that album. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
they didn't have quite as many studio tracks, tracks as they had in the studio. So there were at times a bit of a disconnect. They had to play some stuff over the loudspeaker, pre-recorded. But what
The
energy.
water sounds.
Yeah, yeah. But what energy. Oh my God. I
Yep.
mean, Loic was jumping into the crowd, hanging from the rafters. Robin, the guitar player, just stage dive, took some solos in the crowd. It was just so much absolute energy. In fact, I wish they had had a slightly bigger stage to play with so that
Yep.
more people could have just gotten in there and seen how awesome they are. It's a top 15 show of all time for me. It's easily top 5 for metal.
Yep.
I was completely wowed.
No argument. I just want to touch on a couple of things with them. I mean, you hit the nail on the head though. It's a band. If you like metal, I don't care if you have any preconceived notions of this band. I don't care if you've never listened to a song by this band. If they come around, you have to see them. The performance is that good live. It is unbelievable. And to follow up on what you're talking about with Loic and his just sheer ridiculousness the entire show, not the same kind of venue I saw it. I saw it at the Sinclair in Boston, which is the same venue where I saw Winter Sun headline show last winter. Neither here nor there, but what I'm getting at is this venue has a balcony, 8, 9, 10 feet above the ground level in the pit area. During Let Them Believe, Loic dropped the mic during one of the interludes, one of the solos, took off into the crowd, he just popped up on top of the balcony. He had one of his tech guys throw him the mic, where he performed the second verse from said balcony, and during the final solo, handed his cell phone to somebody in the audience, up there with him, and then decided just to do a swan dive into the crowd below. They caught him. Somebody handed him his mic when he was in the crowd, and he finished the song, floating around like a moron. It was unbelievable. So much energy.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. It's like you have to have some guts to do that, because it's one thing to jump off a stage and have a crowd catch you, but you got a lot more. I mean, you have a lot more force working against you. Gravity is pulling you down a bit harder jumping off a balcony. So props to him for giving it a go. And
yeah, this isn't 4,000 people in one confined area like like the pit at Wackenfest or something. These are small venues. These are really small venues. There might be 100 people down there. It was impressive. Best $13 I've ever spent.
Oh God,
without a doubt.
I'm with you 100%. Incredible show. I would give that. I'd give it a very easy 8.5 out of 10.
I was gonna go 8.5.
Yeah. Anyway, I know you've got a bunch more shows coming up. I'm a little quiet on the metal front for the next few weeks, but what do you got on your radar?
Well, we got Carcass tomorrow in Boston, which I'm still kicking around going to. I'll be right in the city as usual on Thursdays, so I'm thinking about taking a hop, skip, and a jump over to that venue. Carcass is great. I saw him last year at Maryland Death Fest. I'll see him at Wacken later on this year, so that's why I'm kind of waffling a little bit. Next Friday, Behemoth is headlining the Friday set of that said show, so I really, really need to see them because it's Behemoth. I more or less I worship them like I worship a severed goat's head. So I mean I'll probably end up at that show, and I'll go to that. But aside from that, we've obviously got Mastodon coming over to go here in Cavalar Attack, which I'll be at. A show that I'm super excited about. Meshuggah is playing with Between the Buried and Me. Don't care about Between the Buried and Me. Seen them before. Don't care. I'll be at that, and then I got Deaf Heaven, who's going to be coming around in a couple weeks again. I'll be seeing them for the second time this year in Boston, and then finally Solstafir, those Icelandic cowboy black metalers who I'll be seeing at MDF as well. Really fucked up sound. They'll be in Boston at the Middle East, so I'm going to go to that as well. So yeah, we're talking a good solid 5, 6, 7 shows in the next, pre-MDF. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got. I mean, I'm with you. I have the. I have Kvelertak. They're coming through with Gojira or I don't know why I said Kvelertak as if they're the headliner. Kvelertak is probably my favorite of those three.
Yeah, yeah.
Gojira and Mastodon. Absolutely amazing live band. I know you haven't seen them yet, but prepare to
Hey,
be
it's black
prepare
and
to
roll. I'm
be
right there, man. Black and
indoctrinated.
roll.
It is just
It's
unreal. Um, yeah, beyond that, I mean, I'm quiet for the rest of April, but I have oh god, May is just going to be ridiculous for me. I have um, Rodrigo and Gabriella. I have Churches. I have Chromeo, and then Velotok, Gojira, Mastodon, and then MVF.
churches with a V.
Yeah,
Because
I love them
you're
though.
not you're not brutal if you don't use V's instead of U's or
Hey,
whatever.
it's better than a backward R.
Corn because of crayon.
or Motley Crue with the umlauts.
It doesn't even make sense. Why are there umlauts? Anywho, anywho,
But
God,
we've got some shows coming up. It's been a fun 2014 so far, and it figures to continue. Starting our next segment, we're gonna take a look back. We've done some newsy bits, but right now we're gonna take a look back at just some albums from the past that we've been giving a spin. Like what's a good like vintage like retro throwback metal album that you've been listening to recently. I know mine. Corey, why don't you start us off with yours?
sure. And just to specify, when I think of look back as far as the record goes, it's pretty much just anything you popped in, listened to start to finish that just caught your ear. Again, a trip down memory lane. Pretty
Right.
much for me, it's anything that came out pre 2013, really.
Yes.
So for me, I took a trip back to 2005, and one of my favorite records, Hypocrisy's Virus. Um, this was an album that really got me into this band and into Peter as a whole. Peter Tätgren, frontman, guitarist, guys produced everything, owns a town in Sweden, also in Pain, or he is Pain, whatever.
Also,
But this album specifically,
also
also
owner of Parlby.
also owner of Parlby, Sweden, where I should visit. So this album, I just like it because it encompasses, to me, and this may or may not be agreed upon by other Hypocrisy listeners, but it does cover a lot of Hypocrisy's sound. It starts with songs like Warpath, Scrutinized, and my personal favorite, which is Fearless is really just like a fuck you bitch kind of a song, but it's such a good fuck you bitch kind of a song. And just the treble picking involved in it, it's just really upbeat, really, really, really catchy. But the CD does slow to a little more of a deliberate melodic death metal that kind of is more reminiscent of stuff they've put out through like Abducted, Roswell 47, those kind of songs, with songs like Let the Knife Do the Talking, and A Thousand Lies. And then it kicks right back up with Blood Drenched, which is pretty much just what the name implies. It's a song about death and murder.
You don't say.
No, it's right up there. But it does close on a somber note with "Living to Die," which is pretty cool. And let's face it, the best moment of this whole album is on a song called "Craving for Another Killing." And I quote: "Terminate, you've got to sacrifice their flesh, bleed for the gods that live beyond. Stabbing work of art from the graves, they will arise. All you need is hate when all hope is gone." Craving for Another Killing, Virus, 2005.
Well, that song title, I mean, I gotta say, it is pretty intense, but it's no Frankie Palmieri Imure Take a Gun to School.
No, because people remember Peter Tätgren's birthdays.
This is true. I gotta go back and listen to that one. I was not huge on End of Disclosure.
Yeah, it was okay. It has its moments.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fine, but it sort of started to feel like run of the mill Hypocrisy.
Funny you should say that. No, I was gonna say it's kind of interesting because that's the one thing the band I feel has done over the past 3 or 4 years is a lot of the most recent albums are along similar lines. They did see a lot of progression. They saw a lot of evolution from the Abducted days up through like Virus, and then they kind of found a path and putting out an album every 4 years that's kind of similar as
Yeah. But here's the real question: are Hypocrisy ever going to be able to tour in the U.S. without any issues?
No.
Your thoughts?
In fact, the closest thing I'm ever going to get to seeing Hypocrisy, and I think I actually may have mentioned this to you once in the past, or at least sent you an email or link about it. A local band here that I'm really into, Excrecker, is actually playing a Hypocrisy set list this coming Halloween in Worcester. I will be going to that because that's going to be the closest I'll ever get to Peter Tackren. Because as far as I'm concerned, Jeff DeMarco is Peter Tackren incarnate, and that's as close as I'm going to get. So
there you go. Got to take what you.
They will always have issues. Yeah, exactly.
Well, for my,
what about you?
Yeah. For my throwback album, I re-encountered this one as I was uploading it to Spotify because one of the many holes in Spotify's catalog, it did not have Iron Maiden's Dance of Death. It has just about every other album in Maiden's catalog, but not Dance of Death. And so as I was uploading it, I listened to it, and it just, I mean, it's more than 10 years old at this point, which is Jesus Christ.
Old as shit.
Yeah, but it's more than 10 years old, but it still sounds so amazing. That thing hasn't aged a day. I think it holds up better, certainly better than any of the reunion albums. Brave New World is a close second, but it's just, I mean, top to bottom, it's Maiden's best guitar album. I mean, you've got a couple songs there. We're talking Montsegur, we're talking Rainmaker, we're talking, of course, Passchendaele, Face in the Sand. I mean, these are just absolutely legendary Maiden tracks. And everything is firing on all cylinders. I mean, I think this is Bruce Dickinson's last great vocal album. He sort of started to, I mean, you could tell his voice started to show the wear and tear on A Matter of Life and Death, and especially on Final Frontier. It's, I don't know what you can say. I mean, for me, it's a top 5 Maiden album. It's the album that actually, I mean, aside from like the greatest hits, aside from the singles, this was the first Maiden album I ever bought. Mm-hmm. And it's, I mean, it's just one of those that's always going to stick with me, you know?
You know, it's interesting. I almost feel like it's a great album. I almost feel like it's definitely one of their better albums. I'd probably say top 5, and it's just, I feel like it's done so quietly, you know? I don't know why, maybe it's just my perception, but I just feel like it's almost, I don't want to say it's forgotten, but it's one of their, like you said, it's one of their best work through and through. But there's
been a lot of love thrown on the last 2 albums in particular, Matter of Life and Death, and especially Final Frontier, which I don't really get. A Final Frontier, it just always sounded kind of tired to me. It's just like, oh, long bass intros, with the exception of The Alchemist. It's just, you know, it just felt like they were sort of out of ideas at this point, whereas Dance of Death just is so fresh. I mean, we've got a Nico McBrain track. It's his first writing credit, and it's actually a pretty kick-ass song, New Frontier. There just really isn't a bad song on Dance of Death. I mean, there are certainly some that are better than others, but there's not one song that I think, oh, I should probably skip this one when I'm listening to it. I can't say that for A Matter of Life and Death. I can't say that for The Final Frontier. I can't really even say it for Brave New World. So that's my pick, Dance of Death. Anyway, moving on to our next segment, we're going to do one called our subgenre of the week.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Oh, I dig this.
Yeah. So we're perusing the many different lists of subgenres, and there are a number out there that I had never even heard of before that actually gave me quite a chuckle. But ultimately, we settled on glam metal.
And well, let's back it up here. We settled on glam metal not because that's our preferred genre of metal, not because that's the best genre of metal, because of a recent release that we will be talking about in depth, I'm sure.
Absolutely. That recent release, of course, is Steel Panther's All You Can Eat. But before we get into that, let's give a bit of a background on glam metal. If you're fans of Poison, Motley Crue, Whitesnake, Quiet Riot, any of the 80s MTV metal bands, pop metal, hair metal, um, you'll be familiar with this sound.
Yeah.
It's very catchy, hooky. It's, I mean, you might say that it was pretty much designed to help guys in the bands get girls back in the day. Um, it's an often maligned subgenre of metal, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And rightly so. There were some, like
Yeah.
I'm not convinced, for example, that CC DeVille, guitarist from Poison, can actually play the guitar. You almost measured their their cred in the scene more on how teased up their hair was, as opposed to the quality of their music.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, it was just as equally about the image as it was the talent. If that, probably more so. Oh no, there were definitely some musicians that unknew how to play things. I
right.
could say didn't know how to play things, but that wouldn't be normal.
They
Um,
unknew. um,
um,
Fortunately, hair metal's reign was short lived. When grunge came in the '90s, it sort of knocked it out of the picture. Beavis and Butthead certainly helped as well, in their
yeah.
famous segment making fun of Winger. But recent years, we've seen the rise of Steel Panther. Steel Panther is a parody band. Have been known formerly as Metal Shop, Metal School, but they settled on the Steel Panther moniker a few years back. Steel Panther has thus far they've put out 3 albums. The most recent came out just last week, as I mentioned before. All You Can Eat. This band is just so much fun. I
All right.
can't even.
So
It's
all you can eat.
it's a satire. I mean, to be perfectly clear
It's
on
the
this,
best satire.
it's
It is the
a
best satire.
parody of the hair metal scene, but it's a loving parody. I mean, you can
That's
tell
why
when you listen to these guys, they just love the music.
the best back to back on the album is Glory Hole followed by Bukkake Tears. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
And
just the
let's
best.
let's not even talk about their previous album, which had a song called "It Won't Suck Itself," "Supersonic Sex Machine," "Let Me Come In," CUM. Like,
They're so good. I actually found out this week they're gonna be at Wacken, and originally I just kind of was like, oh, there's a hair metal band in the lineup. But now I actually know who Steel Panther is. I'm really really excited about that set. Like really excited about it.
they're coming through. They're coming through New York in. I think actually it's the Tuesday after MDF. And I'm
Really.
really tempted to get tickets for that.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a riot. I have since I stumbled upon All You Can Eat last week. I basically have been listening to these guys a couple times a day, a couple songs here and there, and just what a trip. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a riot. And they take the partying and the misogyny that's so often associated with hair metal. They in parodying it, they just take it to new extremes. I mean, it's just
Oh, they knock it out of the park. They absolutely knock it out of the park. No
yeah.
question.
It
Um,
almost makes me think of when we were looking up the subgenre of the week. We came across one that I don't think we're entirely off base in mentioning here. It's a subgenre called porno grind,
no,
which
it needs to be in this category. It does. Not because of sound or not because of anything really aside from just sheer lyrical content.
yeah,
Porno grind.
porno grind,
Porno
which
grind.
combines grindcore and death metal with sexually tinged lyrics.
Actually, and we'll get into this a little bit more later. I've assembled a list of 5 songs from said genre of the week, and I actually included a porno grind song because I felt it was necessary. Said song that I chose, and it's just worth going over real briefly. It's by a band called Cock and Ball Torture, and the name of the song is Anal Sex Terror.
Oh man.
Other band named examples here: Meat Shits, MEITSHITS, and Torso Fuck.
Oh, good lord.
So not quite the same category as glam metal per se, but it's got to be mentioned at some point. So why not now?
Oh man. I have some Steel Panther lyrics called up here. Um, we have one from the first album called "Fat Girl." um, the chorus of which is simply "Whoa, whoa, there she blows."
Oh
I
God, that's the
love
best.
I love this band.
That's the best.
They're just so wonderful. Anyway, moving on to our next segment here. We're gonna go into albums coming soon, coming out this week. Some
Yes,
interesting
yes, 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 yes,
couple of
yes.
interesting albums this week. It was a relatively quiet week, but got a couple on the horizon that we're really excited about. Um, Corey, why don't you start us off?
Well, first and foremost, next Tuesday is the release of Triptychon. Now, I'm not the most familiar with Triptychon. I have only heard one song off this album.
Triptychon, of
Our,
course, is the new project of Tom Gabriel Fisher, otherwise known as Tom G. Warrior, formerly of Celtic Frost.
right, and this he considers this his third project. So Triptychon, get it? It's
Yeah.
dumb. Anyhow, anywho, that comes out next Tuesday. Our uh, our compatriots over at Metal Sucks gave it a 5 out of 5. So I am extremely excited about it. I listened to one song off it. It was very, very somber, very doomy, but with a little bit more to it than say like an Evoken track. Um, it had a great dark feel to it, and it's just I'm looking forward to it. I have a copy pre-ordered, so I'll be there to snag that at midnight. Um, that's what I'm really excited about this week. Aside from that, I don't know. What do you got? What do you got coming out?
Yeah. Well, just as an addendum to Triptychon, in addition to the perfect score from Metal Sucks, I know Adrian Begrand, who writes for Decibel and Pop Matters, he was also
Yep.
saying it's pretty damn close to a perfect album. He's been tweeting about it like crazy lately. So very high on my list as well. This week, as I mentioned before, is kind of a quiet week. We had a new Black
Yeah.
Label Society album, which, spoiler alert, sounds like most other Black Label Society albums. Um, it's not bad for what it is. I gave it a quick listen yesterday. It's Zach. Zach's gonna Zach, but
Yeah. He
it's
does Zach well.
yeah.
He does.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he
it's just
Zach's
one of
well.
those things. Like, a little goes a long way. If you've heard, um, if you've heard Black Label before, you're probably not really going to love or hate this, but it is very Black Label. The other one I was listening to, I know I mentioned this to you, Corey. Metal Sucks. Shout out to them for their recommendation of this one. It's an Israeli group called Therium, an album called Reflections. Now, this brings in a lot of different subgenres. It's sort of, there are elements that are very reminiscent of like technical death metal, but then there's also, there are some songs that have like breakdown and just sort of associated with like metalcore and stuff that we normally hate. But it's a really cool listen, sort of slower at times, but very cool. They do a lot of, very, very intricate technical riffage going on. Again, the album is called Reflections. The band is Ferium, Ferium, from Israel. It's on Spotify, so I recommend you check it out. And it's got an absolutely gnarly album cover, which we're going to pop up on the screen here. There we go.
That's one of my favorite things is album artwork. That's why I still buy CDs. One of the four people that still does.
I am with you. I am with you. It's fewer and farther between than I used to be, but I still do like a good CD purchase when I can. Anyway, that'll do it for album previews. But gonna wrap up with a sort of a hand in hand segment that we're gonna do this week, called Horns Up, Horns Down. Horns Up is where we go over stuff that we just really like, anything that's come onto our radar screen that is just really awesome over the last week. Horns Down, the exact opposite. Shit that's come across our radar screen that we just hate, or at the very least are less than pleased with.
Yeah,
Um,
that list is a lot longer. That list is a lot longer for me.
yeah,
Just saying. Just saying. In
this
all
is
my optimistic ways, I hate a lot of stuff.
you really no.
No.
Well, anyway, let's start off with our horns up. Corey, what do you got this week?
Oh, I've got Mr. Pickles. All right.
Mr.
Anywho,
Pickles.
Mr. Pickles. All right, Mr. Pickles. For those familiar with Adult Swim, it was a recently released pilot episode of this animated show about the satanic dog. I'll start with that. It is a satanic dog named Mr. Pickles. Um, Clearly written by the same dudes that wrote Metalocalypse. Now, here's the thing. Mr. Pickles, Dan, I know I've forced you to watch it at this point. It's all over the map. It is all over the map as far as whatever plot they were trying to implement in the pilot. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm just gonna drop a few subjects that entered my peripheral when I was watching this. Beer roids. You drink them and your beer gut gets 6-packs. Mr. Pickles in one scene murdered a stripper, severed her legs, used her stripper legs as stilts, and then pole danced with them. Mr. Pickles recited satanic verses to a grizzly bear and then proceeded to have sex with it.
Oh my god.
In one moment, in one moment, in this we'll call it a camp for lack of better terms. This camp counselor, whatever you want to refer to him as, was watching a movie called Illegal Alien. Illegal Alien was the movie Alien, but the alien popped out of the dude's stomach with a freaking in Mexican attire and just started dancing around with his. Anywho, it was great. And then finally, the head of the household, the father of the family that this is somehow based around, is a salesman for hot tub air balloons. Hot tub air balloons. It's an 11-minute episode, and that's only a small snippet of what's included in that episode. So if it's 12 minutes worth wasting, if you want to include the subtitle, if you want to include the credits and stuff, 12 minutes worth wasting of your life if you feel the need.
And it is available. It is available on YouTube, is it not?
We'll post a link. Yeah, there's this. It is available on YouTube. If you just type in Mr. Pickles pilot, it's probably gonna be the first thing you see.
Mr. Pickles. Mr. Pickles. My horns up. I'm gonna do HBO's now current Sunday night lineup. For those who have not been living under a rock, Game of Thrones came back, but we also saw the premieres of Veep and a new show called Silicon Valley from Mike Judge, who was behind Beavis and Butthead, Office Space, King of the Hill, you name it. Those three back to back to back. You have just got one amazing night of television. I sat down around 9 o'clock and I did not leave until Veep had wrapped at a little past 11.
Nice.
Game of Thrones, obviously, that series speaks for itself. Everyone more or less knows what it's about. Silicon Valley, the new one, is it's about a startup. It's a guy that is coding a music app, but accidentally stumbles across a brand new compression algorithm for file compression that sets off a bidding war, and in turn launches his own company. Very, very funny, hysterically funny. It's got some great, it's really, really funny comedians on it. Kumail Nanjiani, Martin Starr, who you'll recognize from the Judd Apatow movies. TJ Miller, who just steals every scene he's in. TJ Miller, for those who don't know, is if you saw Cloverfield, he does the voice of the guy behind the camera.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He is just an absolute riot in this show. I obviously do not work in Silicon Valley. I can't speak to how accurate a portrayal it is, but dear Lord, is it funny. Loads of potential there. And then Veep, I've been a big fan of for a little while now. It's political comedy, back for its third season, and it just got off to a wonderful start as well. So HBO Sunday nights, that's my horns up for the week. What about
Yeah,
Horns?
but HBO Sunday Night doesn't have Mr. Pickles, and that's a problem.
It doesn't have Mr. Pickles yet.
Nobody has Mr. Pickles right now except for one pilot on YouTube.
Well, fuck the world.
All of the Mr. Pickles. Anyway, horns down.
Horns down.
The opposite side of things. Shit nobody likes, or at least we don't like, and we're gonna force feed our opinions to you. Dan, what do you got? Because I'm curious to hear.
For me, horns down this week has got to be soccer. The entire sport of soccer. No team. Yeah, says Corey as he
Yeah.
wears
like
his
soccer.
Bayern Munich jersey. No team that I can call myself a fan of is having an easy go of it right now.
Jesus.
Arsenal seems to be. I mean, now granted, I know they've got a lot of injuries, but Arsenal seems to be unlearning how to play soccer. And then on the other side, you get to the MLS and our Portland Timbers, our Western Conference top seed, our preseason MLS Cup picks across the league, just can't get out of the gate right now.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I follow suit with the whole Timbers fan base. It's upsetting.
0 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses. I will say this: the game they played against Seattle was one of the more exciting MLS games I've ever watched. Setting aside the fact that they gave up a 2-1 lead and a 4-2 lead. But yeah, soccer is it's making me drink a little bit in the last month and a half. Hopefully that ship will start righting itself sometime soon, but until then, that is my horns down.
Yeah, Timbers will right the ship eventually. It's only a matter of time.
I have to think. Yeah, I think so.
Otherwise, I'll be very upset. I'm pretty excited the Timbers will actually be at the East Coast this year, so we'll be making. I say we because there's no real choice in the matter, but we'll be making a trek to Gillette Stadium soon to take on the Revs.
Yep. August 16th.
That'll be good.
The New York,
I'm right.
Unfortunately, the New York match is while we're down at MDF. Go figure.
Anywho, I guess this doesn't really have a relationship to metal or anything, and it's a really somber note that I have to use my horns down on tonight. But it just happened, and it's gotta be mentioned. I gotta say R.I.P. Ultimate Warrior. Born James Bryan Hellwig, Ultimate Warrior of WWF and WWE. Passed away. There's no real cause of death that's been released at this point.
Was just inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame a couple days ago.
That is correct. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame. This guy, whether you followed wrestling as a little kid, whether you followed wrestling as an adult, both, not at all, or if you only followed wrestling in the sense that you played it on your N64 at Syracuse University in a dorm room. I also have, we both have our hands up, so either way, you know who the guy is. He's a legend to, I guess their term is sports entertainment. It's a huge loss. He was a great guy. It's sad. I'm curious as to what the actual cause of death is. How at least he was 54. I don't know. I don't really know where else to go with this. It's a sad day for WWE. He just presented on, I think it was Raw. I didn't watch, but he just presented, gave a nice speech ringside on Monday night. So this is not exactly something that we saw coming at all. So, R.I.P. Warrior.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace indeed. At any rate, that'll about wrap us up for this debut episode of Horns Up. I think it went off pretty smoothly. I mean, obviously a couple kinks to work out here and there, but we've got many, many more of these coming your way. Corey, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just about out of wine, so we better wrap this up pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm still sitting here. I had a late workout and I have yet to shower, so I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna wrap it up. At any rate, for Corey Butterworth, I am Dan Kaplan. This has been episode 1 of The Bracket. Whoopsie. Redoing that.
Bad habits are hard to break.
Yeah. At any rate, for Corey Butterworth, I am Dan Kaplan, your host. This has been episode 1 of Horns Up, the first of what we hope will be many. Check back next time around the same time and give us another listen. Good night.